assign.
So welcome everyone to the session number 3 of this international SLERD conference. The session is about making learning ecosystems smarter. We have 3 papers to be presented this morning. And I think we can start with the first paper, Community Pacts and We for SLES tools to support the implementation of smart learning environments. The presenter is Irina.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Irina. So I can give you the floor. We have 15 minutes for each presentation during this hour and plus 5 minutes for discussions and questions.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Oh, this one. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, great.
Okay. Now I want to talk about community packs and we firstly as tools to support the implementation of smart learning ecosystems. First, let's start with an introduction about the current school system in Italy. In fact, our school system appears to be very obsolete, and we can say that it evolves at a different speed than our society. In fact, our society requires us some skills that the school doesn't teach. So we can find the phenomena of skill mismatch. We can say also that school has lost its centrality to the territory of reference. So the main question is how to recover this centrality. One way is by using learning ecosystems that are trying to solve this problem. And learning ecosystems can be seen as engines of social innovation and territorial development. So now we can say that we are in a stalemate. In fact, the productive world just limits to report critical issues, and instead, policymakers and governments show an enormous slowness in taking reforms. So, how to do this transformation? Well, we need 2 main values: commitment and awareness. In fact, we have to question the nature and role of the school system nowadays, and especially consider the expectations of the various stakeholders. So the school is the key of this transformation. We need to bring school back to the center of their communities of reference. And school is the key because it has a lot of advantages. In fact, schools in general have a regulated territorial coverage. They constitute the most widespread territorial network of a country. And schools support the growth of future generations of citizens. So what we need to do is to change citizen perception about school, and people should consider schools as driving force for the growth of the whole territory. So we have 2 main goals now. The first one is to prepare students 360 degrees. And the other one is to transform schools into veritable smart learning ecosystems. But how to do this? So we need some boundary conditions. First of all, we need a strong, flexible regulatory framework that can be contextualized and customized. Then we need a principal of the school with adequate leadership and networking skills. Then we need teachers able to involve students and families. And so students will be attracted and will contribute to the growth of the community. So our main goal is to transfer all these skills to the school and its teachers. So this process will be replicated over time. Also, in order to create a learning ecosystem, we need real interest from all territorial stakeholders. But to build this interest, we need everyone to know the community and its features and its values. We also need to make people resources available, both skills and material resources. So we need some way to collect all these resources and figure out who made what available. So now we will focus on the opportunities offered by the Italian context, in particular referring to secondary schools. In Italy, the Ministry of Education has defined a regulatory framework, and this framework suggests some tools. In particular, we have participatory evaluation, co-design, improvement plans, alternation schemes, certification of competencies, and in particular community packs. Now let's focus on community packs, where agreements between a school and territory, and they were strongly pushed by the ministry during the pandemic. Their goal was to sustain the search for spaces and resources. Community packs also identify shared solutions to serious problems, and they want to reinforce the sense of identity and to increase the smartness of territories and cities. So we start from one community pact in particular, the one of Amaldi High School, an high school here in Rome. And we want to start from this community pact and develop a learning ecosystem. We choose this pact because it has two goals, like implementing a community school, and it wants to take advantage of skill and competencies of each member of the community to counteract educational poverty and skill gap. So in order to reveal the state of this community and understand the point of start, we conducted a survey. From this survey, we can understand that there's a lower sense of ownership and identity toward the schools, in students and stakeholders, and they little recognize themselves in the territorial reality. On the other hand, we found out that some categories of community members are ready to collaborate actively with the school, and they believe that school can become a cultural hub and a pole of attraction. With the open-ended questions, we found out that students didn't understand properly the values on which the pact is based. Instead, the teachers and the stakeholders were more conscious. In fact, with their answers, we built this word cloud. So starting from this situation, the goals are to strengthen the relationship between school and territory and counteract critical phenomena, like, for example, the dropout. So starting from these needs, we think that it's necessary to introduce a web support. This web support should increase the sense of ownership and identity toward the schools. And it should make people recognize themselves in a territorial reality and understand the values of the community. This web support should also collect people resources and support participatory activities. But the question is how to design this web support, and in particular, how to design this environment that will support the development of learning ecosystem without overlapping existing tools, for example, social media. So we started the design process by conducting some interviews and focus groups with the school principal and other territorial stakeholders, and we come out with some functionalities. Then we checked if these functionalities were considered useful from the other members of the community. Everybody agrees with the fact that a web portal is really useful for this goal. And the sections that were considered the most useful were the resources collection, competencies micro-certification, and competencies bank. The participatory evaluation section was considered less useful, but we decided to introduce it anyway because it's really important in the development of a learning ecosystem. So here is the web portal that we realized. It's called We for SLE, We for Smart Learning Ecosystems, and it was realized using a WordPress responsive layout. We have to say that it offers an open template environment, so it could be used by other schools wishing to implement a smart learning ecosystem, starting from a community pact. Here we see the basic structure of this web portal. We have 4 main categories: community, activities, micro-certifications, and participatory activities. These percentages represent a preliminary estimation of the usefulness of each section. In fact, the section that was considered the most useful is the micro-certifications one, and the less useful, as we said before, is considered the participatory activities one. So what to do next? Our next steps are, first of all, conduct usability tests and liking tests with all categories of stakeholders. Then we will conduct other focus groups. And the third step is to conduct preliminary usage tests. So we will verify the effectiveness of this portal and if this web portal supports the growth of the local community and the growth of the smart level of learning, the smartness level of a learning ecosystem. And that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Irina. That was a very interesting presentation, really. And thank you for sharing with us. It was very interesting to listen to this great idea of having a school system, to my understanding, that is going to be open to the society. So students, teachers, parents can interact with the society, and by providing, we all know as educators how important is the authentic learning. Well, thank you very much. Any questions that you may have? No? I need to make a comment on this initiative. This reminds me another project sometime. It's called Open Schools for Open Societies. It was a project, it was an initiative funded by the European Union. I think the target is common, to create a school that is open to the society, that leads the society. And it's not only in Italy that the school system is obsolete. Usually in most countries, I can provide my own experience from Greece, the school is lagging behind the society. So it's good to have this kind of initiatives. Have you thought about any way to assess the impact of this initiative on the school, on the teachers, on the parents? I mean, how are you going to evaluate if this, of course, this is towards the end of the implementation. How are you going to evaluate if actually this project reaches the goals?
We will conduct tests, surveys, and we are just in touch with the school and the principal of the school. So she is helping us to reach the students and teachers. So the principal is our helper in this toward this goal.
So maybe I can add an additional comment to that. As you know, Stavros, we have defined within the SLERD the so-called smartness, school smartness. And actually, as you know, is a very complex, is a multidimensional construct that has a different, many different factors. And we used in the past this participatory co-evaluation with the parents, stakeholders, teachers, and students, in order to see the difference that has been generated year by year by the new action that was taken by the school. With respect to that time, the difference is that a participatory evaluation was concerning only a school action by themselves. Now the difference is that the school, due to the territory pact, can be put in let's say in a more strict relationship with the territory. So once that you have created the community, you can also evaluate in the same way the effect that this opening of the school to the society will provide. So that, I don't know if I have answered to your question.
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you, Carlo and Irina, because there are many stakeholders involved, like school level, student level. It's kind of challenging, but now I think the picture is clear, and thank you very much.
But anyway, your question is a fundamental one, because actually there are a lot of pacts in Italy, school pacts. But of course, the actors do not know how to evaluate the outcomes of any action. So it's clearly a very key point.
I would like to wish you good luck in the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I stop the sharing.
Any other questions? Okay. If this is the case, then we could move to the second presentation. The topic is digital games as tools of innovative pedagogy in education. The article is going to be presented by Manis.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Manis.
Yeah, hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. When you are ready, you can.
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm ready.
The floor is yours. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, all of you. My name is Manish Dubey. I'm a research scholar from Central State of Gujarat. I'm presenting a digital game as a tool of innovative pedagogy in education. And these are the presentation outline of my presentation. I am first focusing the how many emerging challenges for the use of digital game as a tool of innovative education technology. There are several games like learning outcome or the challenges for the high order of cognitive skill and the lack of learning environment, lack of content knowledge, assessment method, and learning objective, lack of technological skill like the teacher and the student, also lack of fund and infrastructure. These are the main challenges for the for integration of a digital game as a innovative education technology pedagogy. Then I look the why digital game based learning need. They're the because they're the digital game has grown increasing the popular in education. And they provide the student multi-sensory activity, experimental setting, and main game, more are games just like simulation game, role-playing game, strategy game also provide the improve the student skill to critical thinking, problem solving, and different things. And certain education gamification help to minimize the limit of including time and place, and help the student learn and anytime, any place, and anywhere. Where and furthermore, the learner required to more exciting, motivating, achieving knowledge, returning and book, and the teacher and student able to communicate with the another obtain information to each other, and active has been recognized advanced technology throughout the different modem all over the world. And then I'm going to digital game and innovative education tool. Digital game of the software application and the innovative education tool used in education that combine the fact video game, computer game like action game, adventures game, puzzle game. Digital game include the consider that the guide the play toward a specific goal. Digital game also in innovative education tool also consider the desire and pleasure of the student to play with promoting development and logical reasoning. And digital game also game based on the learning, excellent innovative education tool as assessment learning in the creating understanding, playing sustain a stronger inspiration and apply the obtained knowledge. Then I go to the process of choosing digital game from the teaching and learning. These are the steps for first use the digital game for which subject. First decide the learning goal like the knowledge, acquisition, content, understanding. Then choose the game learning content like subject, which subject you to this game like social science, business, and other subject. And then game technical characteristic like strategy, approach, concept, and technical model like single, multiplayer, non, and collaborative, comparative. And then go to the game platform, which platform to use, deliver this game in education like computer, video game, digital, mobile, network. And then choose the game type, which game are the suitable for the different subject like puzzle, adventures, strategy, like this. Digital learning game, interactive learning, edutainment. The edutainment, the first generation of digital game, where the main focus on the learning should be more enjoyable and hence the more effective in the traditional instruction approach. And Watson claimed that commercial available digital game are developed mainly for the pleasure with the task of difficulty in the perspective aligned with the game role. For example, Sims also the type of game to provide the societal in small town of societal structure and how to face facing facing people in challenging society. Then a rise of the serious game movement can be seen in the attempt to address the shortcoming of the first generation education digital game, containing the game to provide the use of authentic and meaningful learning environment. And the many games like Ludo, Square Quest, and the Remission are also used in the different subjects, engineering, education, politics, sociology, history, and different subjects. And the active learning through the digital game is also provide the digital game to a student active during learning process. So Jules defined that the 6 distinguished characteristics of described to digital game to prove the learning of student according to Jules. Regulation-based digital game, verbal and quantified result, and the hallmark of digital game to player provide the feedback and achieve outcome can be valuable, positive and negative. The player working hard to get the described result, and the result play get emotion involved their performance, playing action and defined outcome. And in 2007, we argued that the digital game might be built problem-solving ability by proposing the 4-step process for which player active interact which conformative in game obstacle, especially in the probe, theory, report, reprove, rethinking, recycling. Like based on this 4 step, give the The user is encouraged to prove the virtual world which explore the game virtual environment. During exploring virtual environment, player form a hypothesis based on the what they have learned from the action. Then test the hypothesis. The play re-explore the game world of engage in the action explore of the environment. The player accept the rethink and the his her original premising and respect the above description sequence activity based on the feedback and supply. Through digital game, encourage the student learning digital game in a higher education learning environment, create the learning environment, and achieve the more learning outcome. Higher institutions should provide the education to assist students become engaging and responsible citizen. Therefore, the career-specific education helps the student acquire domain-specific knowledge, skill, and result. Education focus on the development essential skills such as reading, and other thing. Dhoni and Merchant proposed the three type of typology of the digital game. First, use the first type of typology, drill and practice. Like quiz and puzzle can be at the learning effect, factual knowledge. Second type of typology, sport game and action game can be used to apply concept and the rule of that for previous learn. The third type of typology, strategy, role playing and simulation game are appropriate for the problem solving and decision making ability. Then go to the discussion part. The digital game in higher education offer the unique chance to enhance high order cognitive skills. Therefore, after looking through the most of literature, we found the evaluation are nearly always in the subjective criteria rather than the objective, which is true in the most case. But in the digital game, based on the learning evaluate that depend on both subjective and objective. Game-based education system are evaluated based on the perceived learning, but this should be the only criteria. Another open up the utilized artifact and that like a presentation, written report, and portfolio that the student produce the part of the involvement of the game-based learning activity. Then the result, this digital game might be used used to teach the test of wide range of capability that a student need to succeed the real world. Such approach, however, they require well-defined criteria that may provide such a credit proof of the learning efficiency of digital game and this point of the lack of research in the area. Then conclusion apart the digital game are used as learning aid to promote acquire particular knowledge and development advanced cognitive ability, developing and commercial culture among the young people we can facilitate by using digital game and the development demonstrated by the research that highlight the potential of digital game for achieving learning objective related to entrepreneurship education and growing body of evidence from the study understand at the college university level so that the digital game can be help the student develop the high order cognitive skill where the absence of rigorous evolution methodology in necessity further research. Digital game may be used mediate student instruction by the including specific meaning of their design. Their efficiency can be assured by the drawing and performing instruction and their result improved by the displaying behavior and articulate generate artificial research on design game influence on the high order cognitive skill in limit. We need more research and so they apply the digital game acquire the necessary for fulfill the educational objective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for this comprehensive literature review, I would say, about digital game-based learning.
Okay.
Any questions?
Did you experiment any application of games?
Yes, yes, sir. I in my research, I am experiment the higher education in student in UG level, and I found the more of student more actively collaborate with game-based learning, and outcome also the good for traditional teaching method. So I look in my study only. Hello.
Yes. Yeah, this is very important that you shared with us because we need some empirical evidence. Manis, let me ask you something. If there is no other question, please. I have a question. Yana, yeah.
I'm sorry, it's travel. I have a question. As a practitioner, a teacher, what would you say that were the top recommendations for adopting games as a practice? And whether if there are some downsides of using games in their classroom.
Okay. When the digital game recommendation for teacher for first give the training for teacher, and then discuss with teacher and teacher how to teach this game in classroom, and how to using your pedagogy to improve the learning outcome, and provide the benefit, later the benefit of the game, how to use, and then is 10 teacher and teacher, then teacher are promote this game to in your pedagogy, and use in teaching learning process, and also discuss with the student about the game. This game, these are the characteristics of this. The characteristic of this game, and how to achieve the achieve the outcome of the, how to improve learning through this game, and how to achieve the outcome of learning objective. So these are the.
Any other questions? I have a very short question, Manis, because when I read your title, it says digital games as tools for innovative pedagogy in education. What do you think? Do we need a new pedagogy for digital game-based learning, or is this a real new innovative pedagogy, or this practice can use existing pedagogies? Where is the innovative in this case? This is just a theoretical question, okay? Just.
I'm looking at innovative pedagogy, like pedagogy with technology. Use the incremental, as say the incremental pedagogy.
Okay.
And include the incremental changes, the challenges of pedagogy. Then use the technology and get the improve the pedagogy and get the outcome of learning.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
If there are no more questions, we can move to the next presentation. Manis, if you could stop sharing, please.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and Janika is the next presenter. The topic is Environment Challenges of E-Learning in Higher Education, the Teacher's Perspective. Hello, Janika.
Hello. 1 second, I will start sharing my slides. Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Janika Leoste, and I will be presenting paper written by 3 universities from 3 countries, Estonia, Romania, and Austria. And during these days, we have heard a lot about what type of challenges COVID has posed us, but mostly we have been discussing what are the challenges for the students. So this paper will be challenges that teachers in higher education have experienced. And to give you the context of study, the study was conducted as a part of Erasmus project, where 6 countries took part. And the study data is one intellectual output of the project. And I just want to open you interesting aspect of this type of Erasmus and other projects initiated during COVID period, that we were so focusing on solving problems for the COVID. And we didn't think what would happen when we are going to face this post-COVID period. And as you see from the name of this project, Enhanced Learning and Teaching in International Virtual Environments, this project was specially focused on virtual environments. So beside these videos, that is the one of the outputs, this project also has produced a lot of MOOCs that will be ready this fall. And if you remember from yesterday's one presentation, that how to design for hybrid learning, Teemu Leinonen didn't suggest, for example, MOOCs to be extremely effective for blended and hybrid learning as a mean. But now coming back to the story, we wanted to know what are these barriers and opportunities about digital and e-learning for the teachers, and to give you the context time-wise, all these videos were recorded in January this year. So it was quite difficult to get these videos at all, because at least these teachers in Salzburg were also conducting only online classes. And when we talk about this theoretical context, I would say that when most of articles in this conference has been focusing about this adoption of the technology, innovative technologies, but I would like to bring you here one more perspective, and this the broader rule that the technology adoption happens only when we could imagine it, or we could even go beyond of our imagination, because before the COVID, none of us even imagined that we are going to spend most of our teaching time in front of the screens. So there is always something that has to happen to make it possible that we are going to transform digitally or other way. And when we have, when this spectacular situation has been common to us, we have used to it. Now the next step is to ask, is it reasonable to sustain it? What, especially in education, does it or will it have a positive influence on our teaching or learning? Or at least could we engage students more? Or at least could we develop 21st century skills? Or what we are all talking about, that we should redefine how we teach, how we learn. We should reconsider the main concepts. So it's the same basically with the e-learning. We have done it as a remote learning now for a while, and we have to choose. I would say basically all European and also universities outside of the Europe have to choose whether they are able or whether they want or whether they even imagine continuing with e-learning when the COVID is at least officially or politically almost over, or could we just come back to the old normality and there will be no new normality? And based on these issues, we posed to our teachers, higher education teachers, questions to understand what they have done during these 2 years and how they could imagine their future with the e-learning context and methods. And as you saw, our sample was only teachers of one university, although we had 6 project partners. And I can confirm that it was already extremely difficult to get these videos out from one country. But when we see these results, it's not part of the study. I can confirm that this type of results have quite a strong cultural or social cultural influence. So if we have been conducted these type of videos or these video interviews in Estonian, it could be a bit different. And when we selected the sample, we wanted to keep as diverse background of teachers as possible. So we considered the age, we considered their gender, we considered their field of study. And what was quite interesting when we conducted these interviews, they weren't like trailers or ad trailers. So when we interviewed the people, we just let them talk. So although if you are going to check these videos afterwards, we have inserted these questions into the video, but actually they were just talking freely. And next. Here you see the participants. You see they are quite diverse. One of them had even a small baby at home. They are all professors from different fields. And now I would like to talk about the results, what came out from our study, from these interviews. So basically, we were asking about barriers to digital teaching, these challenging factors, and their suggestions for the future. And when you check these themes, you can say, okay, I know it, I experienced it, but I would just like to highlight some of these themes, especially, for example, this regional influence on technology, because the technology is different that are used in different regions, and it's also dependent on whether we have a university in a big city or in a rural area. And also I would like to bring out something we tend to ignore. It's the workplace ergonomics. So it is also the huge barrier for digital teaching that we don't have this workplace economics at home. And of course, training and knowledge and everything, but there is, as you see, something more our personal well-being as a higher university teachers. Now, talking about the challenging factors, as teachers, we of course care about quality of our teaching. We want to deliver high quality content, and as you see, I would like to highlight the lack of concentration of the teacher when I don't have a good enough teaching environment in my home office. And also I would like to bring out the reduced social support from other colleagues. I don't know how about you, at least at Tallinn University, we tried to have this informal, I don't know, coffee corner events on Zoom, but it didn't work out. And extremely interesting factor is visually challenged students how I can teach visually challenged students via Zoom, for example. And when talking about suggestions for the future, I would like to bring out one more time, we all know, but it's really extremely important also from my side, that we should avoid full-time online. And also we should learn from others' experiences. We have a lot of experiences, both positive and negative, and also this paper tries to bring together as a collective story now the experience of these Salzburg higher education teachers. But I would say that there's a need for more this type of collective experiences, and especially from different cultural backgrounds. And here you see the collective story. You can read it from the paper. But what we did, if some of you don't know what the collective story is, so we analyzed the interviews, and based on emerging themes, we constructed the story. When recalling yesterday presentations, I don't know whether there is appropriate amount of paragraphs, but as you see, when you read this story, you may feel that it's also like my story, a story of my university, but there is definitely some details that are different because of the university, because of the country, and also because of the cultural peculiarities. Now, when we talk about what we can conclude, or I would like to encourage you to have some fruitful discussion with me, you see that these 5 themes that will reflect teachers' challenges are that they have some personal barriers to digital teaching, but also there are a lot of structural barriers to digital teaching, even if I, as a teacher, don't have or I don't feel these barriers. And also, as a teacher, everybody is worrying about quality, whether the quality will remain the same as in face-to-face teaching. And there is a need for recommendations, whether these recommendations come from government, from my institution, from my colleagues, but definitely as we are not experienced and there are not too many science articles still, we just need these recommendations. And it's extremely important also have this future vision. We have discussed among other colleagues from different countries, and a lot of universities now consider that since fall, we are going back to be these typical campus universities, and the amount of e-learning will be reduced as much as possible. And somewhat it makes this type of projects we have spent for years creating new digital pedagogies or measures or collecting these stories. It makes it somewhat useless. And the second thing I would like to bring out is what are these main personal and structural barriers to digital teaching is this previous experience. Of course, we all hadn't sufficient amount of this experience, and we just don't know how to engage our students to make ourselves feeling more comfortable in this situation, and this workplace ergonomics. And I think there is no point to talk about internet quality or necessary equipment. And the main barriers to digital learning could be the social cultural aspects, as the distractions, mood, support from the colleagues, not sufficient learning environment. But I would like to bring out the quality of students' learning environment, that it's related to the quality how I can deliver my class. And it's up to our higher education management, I think now, how to move further, how to facilitate this e-learning since the fall. And yeah, I would encourage you also to ask your colleagues, conduct these interviews, and form your collective stories, but at the same time start negotiating with your university management to get this support needed to conduct high quality teaching and learning. So thank you so much from my side, and I'm ready for the discussion. And let me check if I can share you also the link of these videos, so you can check later on all these 5 videos, and I'm quite sure that at least some of the videos will resonate with you and feel, yes, I'm the same teacher, I face the same problems. And there is one joke video how students imagine their most horrible e-learning class. Thank you.
Thank you, Janika, for this interesting presentation and for sharing with us this collective experience, a very timely project, and very much aligned with the topic of the conference, the polyphonic construction of the new normality. We are just in front of a new era now, the post-COVID, and we are all facing, all teachers from kindergarten to higher education, the same question: are we going back? Or, okay, any questions from the audience?
Maybe I'd like to ask a question. Do you have any hint about differences due to the age of the cultural background of the teachers?
Yes, thank you. I can tell only what happened in this study, and when you listen to this or watch these videos, you can gather a bigger insight. But of course, if you are older, you are definitely afraid of starting using new tools. So I would say that maybe it's even not the question how old am I, but when we talk about the age, we could consider how long I have been teaching at the higher education institution. So the longer I have been teaching, I have worked out for myself working practices. And if I have designed these working practices for in-person teaching, now it's extremely difficult for me as a teacher to reorganize my practices, or I try to copy them to the digital environment. And also, nobody of us wants to fall back to the situation as a beginner teacher. And at least it's outside of my study, but a lot of my colleagues from Tallinn University and at my institute, I have a lot of colleagues over 60. They have reflected that now I feel that I'm a beginner teacher again. So I would say that this self-confidence of teachers is somewhat related of my personal experience of teaching. So in that sense, I could say the older are you as a university teacher, the most likely that it will be difficult for you to change the practices that have been working so good. And remember, I brought out this quality teaching aspect. I'm afraid that my teaching quality will go down because I don't handle this interactive panel, or I don't handle these Zoom breakout rooms, or I just can't talk to the black screens. So yeah, it is related, but not in a sense that if you're 70 years old, you couldn't start using these digital environments. You could, but you have to try hard to reshape your teaching practices, if it was answered.
Any other questions?
Well, I can comment something that when it was the pandemics in our university, we had an initiative that some professors were invited to talk about some themes. I remember one that was very interesting from a professor who taught neuroscience, and what instead of giving us some tips for teaching, she gave us a class, and while we were learning and having that class, she was demonstrating the tips she was using while she was teaching. And for someone who is learning and seeking every tips for doing the class, I thought that it was more effective having those testimonials instead of you must, in this situation, you must do this, this, and this. So I didn't see the videos yet. I haven't seen the videos yet, but having those testimonials, I think that are important, Janika, for mentoring, I think, and having those feedbacks. So if a platform, if you could combine those in a platform and having that feedback from professors at different stages in their career, I think that would be very useful.
Thank you, Liliana. And I would just like to comment on that, it's now talking about these e-learning practices is something similar to physics. If we reflect just on that, or if we just talk about that, it doesn't change anything. So the most complicated when talking about mentoring, I have to try it out. And I have to confess that I haven't managed to learn interactive board in last half a year, although we bought it because I haven't had time. And I'm not able to implement it during my Zoom classes still because I don't feel confident. That's the one part. But the second part, why our colleagues maybe are not so interested in even this mentoring. They just want us to solve problem. Okay, my Zoom doesn't work, just put it to the put on work, or I can start this or that engagement tool. Is somewhat some of us will hope, okay, the good times will come back, and I see the biggest change, although we know about European Commission recommendations that we should have this digital transformation. I also have seen a lot of colleagues in different countries who are hoping to move back, and that's the reason why they don't need your mentoring, or they don't want to try these things in real life. They hope, okay, the fall comes and now we go back and everything will be forgotten and I will close my digital accounts and I do everything the same. So there's a threat, and I'm afraid of this threat, and I need that's something that has to be done to avoid to just falling down to that old normality.
Thank you, Janika. And Liliana, actually, this example that you mentioned is a very good example of moving from adopting technology, just using the technology, to adapting technology to our needs. So it's one step further, how to effectively use the technology to transform our teaching, as this is a challenge for all educators now in the new era. Any other questions? I think we are approaching 8:30 time limit. So if there are no other questions, thank you very much, Janika, once more. Thanks to all presenters during this session 3 this morning. So we can have a break now, I guess, and then the next session is going to be in 20 minutes. Thank you all, and wish you to enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye-bye.